Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out themichaeldukesshow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukesshow.com and across the great state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the program. It is the Michael Dukes Show, and we are here. How did we get to Thursday? Thursday. Wow, my hair is out of control today. What's left of it? I mean, oof. Okay, there we go. How did we get to Thursday so fast? I mean, wow. The weeks, it's just flying by, man. You know, that's the may you always be busy, I guess, is the old axiom. And here we are this morning, ready to go. We've got a good show lined up for you today. We're waiting here just a minute for our first guest in hour one to join us. We're going to be joined here in just a second by Todd Brigham, who is the executive director of The Compass, which is a club very similar to a boys and girls club, except that it's all funded by private donations. It's all funded by, you know, people who believe in it and who care, and it really is a cool deal. And I like to highlight stuff like this. This really makes me happy because I believe that, quite honestly, that these kind of facilities are needed for many reasons, but I don't believe that it should be on government to have to fund it. I think that these things should be funded by the community and the people in those communities, and I think the government has overreached it's had mission creep over the years. And that's how you see a lot of the hooks get put into these organizations. And that's also how you see bad organizations grow, because they know how to game the system and they know how to make it happen. And I'm not saying this is a Boys and Girls Club. I'm just saying all kinds of organizations. So when I see a community stepping up and funding these kind of organizations, it's pretty amazing. Now they've got a plan. They've got a plan. They want to purchase a facility, and they are working their way up to their goal. They were already halfway to the goal that they've been trying to reach. They're trying to raise $300,000 to get to that next step in their expansion plans. And they are doing a fundraiser, and they're doing all kinds of stuff. So we're going to talk, excuse me, in just a moment with Todd Brigham and go over with him kind of the genesis of this, how it got started, where it came from, and then we're going to talk about where they're going from here and what they've got going on. So should be a good discussion. Then in hour two, we will be joined by Al Poindexter, who is an agricultural expert here in the state of Alaska. He spent many years teaching, not only teaching agriculture, but also as an agricultural guy. And in fact, he took over his dad's greenhouse down here at Anchor Point back in 1995. Al is in his I think he said late 70s, early 80s. He's been doing this for a day or two, and he's got a plan. He and I talked about this the other day, and it's a pretty extensive plan for how do we get Alaska back on track for food sustainability. Now, fair warning, Al even said this is not an overnight thing. And it's it's going to take some effort, and it's going to take some time, and it's going to take a little money. But that he believes that we can become more food sustainable in a period of time. And so we're going to talk with him about that here in hour 2 as well. So that should be a fun time. I'm looking forward to it. Tomorrow on Firearms Friday, where we're going to talk about 2A issues, of course, we're going to get a chance to visit with Rob Pincus, who ditched us last time because daylight savings time and time zones are hard. He was like, time zones are hard, man. You said this, I saw that. He tried to come in an hour. Anyway, it was because of the time zones. And this time we were joking about, so I made sure I gave him all the time zones this time. And so tomorrow, Rob Pincus will come in, and he's going to give us a full report from what took place at SHOT Show. So that should be an excellent time to get the full rundown on all the new stuff that's happening in the gun world, and I'm looking forward to that. And of course, Willie Waffle Movies. He'll be coming on board to join us, and that should be a fantastic opportunity. So big show today, big show tomorrow, and then that's the week. How did it? I just don't understand how did it work so hard. All right. Well, let's get started. I see Todd is in the green room, hanging out, drinking my virtual coffee and eating my virtual donuts. Dang it! Do not eat the ones with sprinkles; those are mine. We're going to get started here, and we're going to talk a little bit. By the way, if you want to find out about the Compass, you can go to thecompassak.org, thecompassak.org, to find out more, to donate, and everything else. Todd grew up in Nikiski. He graduated from Nikiski High in 2002. He attended Latour University in Texas. He got a mechanical engineering degree. He worked for Kohler Engines in Wisconsin, for all you Kohler guys. Ooh, yeah. And then he worked for Tesoro and ConocoPhillips as an engineer. And then he wanted to see the next generation succeed. So he and his wife founded the Compass. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the genesis of that, like I said, and then where we go from here. So without further ado, let's jump on over here and bring things up and get a chance to talk to Todd Brigham from the Compass right now. Good morning, Todd. How are you, my friend?
Hey, good morning, Michael. I'm doing well. How are you?
You know, it's another beautiful day in paradise. I mean, I'm not, my listeners in Fairbanks, I'm not in Fairbanks, so that's a plus for me because I can't do those cold winters anymore, man. Cold winters in the dark are killing me.
I went to UAF for 1 year,
Yeah.
and when my water bottle froze in between classes, I decided to get out and go to school in Texas for a little while, but I eventually made it home.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I went to UAF for a year too, and that was like it. Anyway, I love the people in Fairbanks, but I just cannot do the geography anymore, and the weather and the environment is just too tough. So, all right. Well, Todd, let's talk a little bit. I just gave the brief synopsis, but go ahead and give us the history of a little bit of history of you and your family
Yeah.
and what you're doing, and then let's talk about the seed of the Compass, and let's get started there.
Yeah.
Who you are, where you came from. Let's get rolling.
Yeah, so I grew up in Nikiski. I was born in Colorado, but grew up in Nikiski and graduated in '02. Was involved in sports and different community things. Got my engineering degree from Latino University in Texas, in Longview, Texas. And then my wife and I got married in college, and so we moved back to Wisconsin for a couple years after college, worked for Kohler Engines, and then we had our first kid and decided to get back home near family, and so worked for Tesoro Refinery for a few years, and then ConocoPhillips for a number of years. And then throughout those years, I was working with youth through youth sports, through my church, through different programs, and just saw the need of investment into the next generation. And so, um, I mean, there's a lot of amazing young people without direction in life and kind of trying to find their way. And so we kind of felt God was calling us in 2018 to shift directions ourselves and pour into our young people on a more intentional basis. And so that's what started an organization we call the Compass, and it's a nonprofit, faith-based nonprofit that we are all about loving on, encouraging, equipping, really investing in middle and high school students. And so, yeah, I heard you mention it's similar to a Boys and Girls Club. I kind of view it as I imagine you've been to like a coffee shop or like the ammo can coffee. I imagine it was like a coffee shop like that, and Boys and Girls Club had a baby. It'd be the Compass. It's we run we run a coffee shop in the morning to employ young people in our community, high schoolers and young adults, because a lot of communities around Alaska, some of those jobs for younger people are hard to come by. And so we run a coffee shop, and it became like a community hub, community center. Um, and then in the afternoons, we kick the public out after they've had enough coffee, and we open the doors to middle and high school students. And we'll have 30 to 50 youth here, and we're doing different things like homework. We're doing life skills. We're doing playing pool, doing different games, and really building relationships and encouraging them. A lot of like art classes and art activities. Um, different We also do an outdoor adventure program in the summers, mainly some in the winter, but we take our youth on hikes and fishing trips and canoe trips, mainly get them off their phones and out in creation and enjoying Alaska.
We're talking with Todd Brigham from the Compass AK. Todd, how important is it for us to have for this, how needed is this
Yeah.
for this to go on?
Yeah, I think there's incredible need to invest in our young people. They're our future, and it's a tough world to grow up in right now. And so with phones and with the COVID thing a few years ago, that was a huge setback for a lot of our youth. Some of them during that time, I was asking around, and they're spending 14 to 16 hours a day on their phone. Um, so they need real healthy relationships with real people. There's also a lot of families that need support that are either a single mom, or I know of a number of grandparents that are raising teenagers, teenage boys. And it's a really big challenge. So we come alongside those families that need some care and some time and some investment in their youth.
It's when you guys got this started, did you have a plan? Was there a blueprint, or how I mean, it sounds like you've got a pretty comprehensive program right now. what was the, how did you line it all out? Did you have again, an example or a blueprint of something, or what was and I'll have you answer this one after the break. And if you're just joining us, because I had a connection problem there, and I apologize for those of you on KPE and KGTL that are just joining us. We're talking with Todd Brigham, who is the founder of the CompassAK.org. The Compass is an organization that is a privately funded youth organization. It helps kids, kind of like, again, he said it was the baby of a coffee shop and a boys and girls club kind of mashed together. And we're talking with him about it. But I want to talk a little bit about the blueprint and the plan on that in just a second, Todd. But we are up against the break. And so we're going to continue here in just a second. Apparently I didn't push the button hard enough this morning. That was part of my problem. I have to bash that button a little bit harder. It was connected, I thought, but here we are. We're going to continue. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We return with Todd Brigham right after this.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Well, I feel a little stupid. I don't know what was happening. I thought everything was connected, but again, maybe I just didn't push the button hard. I was in a hurry this morning. I was having some other issues with something else, and anyway, it is what it is. Todd Brigham is our guest here. Frank says my dad worked for Kohler too. All right, that's cool. That's cool.
Nice.
Did you help design stuff for Kohler? Is that what you were doing over there?
Yeah, I was in the engine division, not the toilet division. I worked with a lot of the OEM, John Deere, Skag, Husqvarna, as an applications engineer, making sure the engines and their equipment work together. So
It's kind of cool. I think that this is so good. This idea of creating something like this. When I was in Wasilla, I worked a lot with Michelle Overstreet, who works with My House in Wasilla,
Yep.
which has some similar characteristic. Now that's that's a house for homeless youth, and they have a kind of a different mission, but using some of the same similar components. And it's good to see the success with the youth, because I mean, as Whitney Houston, that the great sage Whitney Houston said, "I believe the children are our future," and so we need to really work at that. And I'll be honest, I find it surprising that there is such a demand. I mean, even here, because in Alaska we think, oh, we're different. We're different. We're rugged individualists. We're the last friend. We're better than everybody else, kind of thing. And you'd think we wouldn't need that up here, just because of, especially those of us that were born and raised up here. It's kind of like, we wouldn't. But there's a huge demand for that, and not just here, but kind of everywhere, right? And you mentioned technology. That's a big component of what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. And Michael, I heard of a study, Alaska based, a few years ago, that the three top things for our young people that are struggling with self-harm are a lack of belonging, a lack of self-worth, and a lack of competence. They didn't feel like they had the competence or the confidence to make it. And so that's really kind of basis of what we're doing. We're coming alongside our youth. And if you kind of think of the cheer saying, it's a place for them to belong. They come through the door, and we're loving on them, and it's a place for them to belong. We can build those relationships, and encourage them that they do have talent and skills, and God especially designed them for a purpose, and try to build their self-worth. And then we like to invest in their competence, their skills. We have a little shop here that we work on bikes. We work on you know, furniture breaks. We have a bunch of, you have 30 to 50 youth. We break a few things, right? And so we go to the shop and I make them help me fix it. And they're learning those skills. Um, and so there is a huge need because of the world we live in right now. Some of those things aren't being developed. So this is a
Right. Right.
small little way we can really help them build some of that.
And I like, it's like life skills. I mean, I don't want to get too political here, but it seems like the school systems over the last 30 or 40 years has lost a lot of those things just to
Yeah.
help people get through life. I mean, I took home ec. I don't think they even offer a home ec course anymore. I learned cooking, I learned mechanics, I learned,
Yep.
some basic skills. And it just, those seems to be, those are too, we're focused on other things now. We're whatever they're focused on, but they don't seem to be focusing on those life skills. And when you're talking about feeling the competence, if you don't know how to do some of those things, I can
Yeah.
understand that causing some anxiety.
No, no, for sure. Um, I think some of the schools do some of that stuff, but it's definitely not prevalent, and it's not happening in the families either,
Yeah.
where you're not working with your uncle on the car anymore.
Yeah, that's true. It's a whole new world, isn't it? It's a whole
Right?
new world. All right, Todd Brigham is our guest. We're going to continue here in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty based, free thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. Let's do this thing. Here we go.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
All right, welcome back to the program. Todd Brigham is our guest. And again, if you're listening on KGTL and KPEN, I'm sorry, man. I thought I pushed the button. I feel so bad. I looked up and I saw that there was no meter running where there should be a meter. And I'm like, what is going on? Anyway, so we're talking with Todd about the Compass. And the Compass is an organization dedicated to youth and giving them confidence, courage, life skills, everything else. He kind of walked us through. He was just talking about during the break, that if something breaks their furniture or whatever, they take them back into the shop and they have the kids help them figure out how to fix it. They work on bikes, they work on, things those are things that a lot of us are teaching our kids just as a daily course. But in today's society, the nuclear family is not quite what it was. You don't have people to do that. Those are important things, basic competence in life skills, cooking or balancing a checkbook or, how to use some tools and things like that. So how did you figure out how to do all this, Todd? Was there like I said earlier, was there a blueprint or was there some kind of plan? What is your model? How did you do it?
Yeah. So working with youth, throughout the years, saw some of the needs, and so really wanted to hone in that. But it really comes down to doing life together, like just like that. You mentioned if something breaks, what do? We fix it. We fix it together. If there's a need, we help meet that need, and so we base a lot of it around um, the needs, and then also just what's it look like to do life together, because some youth stuff and like coaching, I'll spend a couple hours a week. Some of these students are spending 12, 14 hours a week at the Compass, and so we're able to really start doing life together and understand our young people. And so what we did is we kind of broke it down, to building relationships, and then what are ways that really would help our youth grow into well-rounded, healthy adults. That's the goal. We want them to be productive, healthy adults, in our society, and um, life skills, um, career and education. We want them to do well in their schools, so we help with that. Um, we have a program called Pioneer Together. It's community service to the community. We want them right now in middle and high school to start learning to give back to the community. And then I'm a big outdoors guy. I thought, hey, if I'm going to be going hiking, why not drag some of the young people along, and we can go run around the mountains, together. And actually, that's some of the best times you have with the youth, because you're away from the normal everyday life and off the phone. So we really just looked at the need and thought of 6 different ways we can meet the need. So our 6 programs are Navigate Outdoors, that's outdoor adventure, um, Traverse Life, which is life skills. True North is our faith-based. We do some faith-based. We have some classes or like a quarterly worship night. Um, we Pioneer Together is our community service, giving back to the community. Plot Your Course is career and education. Not all our youth are going to go to university for 4 years, get a degree. Some of them are. That's great. But we want to come alongside those and help them get pointed in the direction that is really right for them. So we've helped some get some training for getting into the oil field. Some of our youth have ideas to start small businesses, so we encourage that. And then our final program is Creative Wandering. We we have youth that love to be creative. They love to express themselves, and so we do different art classes, art camps, photography, videography camps, different ways they can really have some fun and express their creative side. So.
And do you serve all of the youth in the community? I mean, regular school, homeschool? Do you? I
Yeah,
mean, is it a whole? It's a holistic thing, or
for sure. So we during drop-in in the afternoons, we'll have 30 to 50 students. Probably 65-70% is public school. The middle high school is about 3/4 a mile away, and then the rest is homeschool. And then we also, what's neat is we have the facility, and like I mentioned, we have a coffee shop in the morning. We have homeschool classes that meet here a couple times a week and have class. We have a classroom where they can hold their classes, and then we also different organizations, farmers group, a moms and toddler group. There's all sorts of other ways that we engage our community. Um, the coffee shop's a really neat way to do that. Our tagline for the coffee shop is building community, supporting youth. So it all goes back to supporting our young people. But one way to do that is to really build community here in Nikiski, which we've really haven't had, some of the facilities and some of the places really never had a sit down coffee shop like
right?
this. And so we're expanding as well. We have 7,200 square feet in the mall, the little strip mall in Nikiski, um, that we own. The organization owns, and we're remodeling. It was nothing had been in here for about 18 years before we got it, and we were able to purchase and put a new roof on, so it's no longer raining inside. That's always good. um, but we have an art room. We're gonna have a commercial kitchen eventually. We have a little shop. We have a classroom. We have a normal coffee shop type area.
Right,
Um,
right.
and so we have the facility to really help engage community, homeschool, our public school, really all ages.
Now, something like this, obviously, it's going to take some money. And so,
Yeah.
what is your business model? Are you running it? Is the coffee shop, part of the cash flow? Is it all donations? What is what's the current funding mechanism for what you're doing, and how are you doing?
Yeah. So this was probably the scariest, hardest part from going from an engineering job, getting the paycheck every week, to starting and running a nonprofit. I'd never even had been part of a nonprofit. So I'm like, how do you do this? How do you get money? And so what we've done is we've wanted to really start with our community and then go out from there. And so we have about 65-70% just individuals donating. 20 bucks here, 50 bucks here. Some people are monthly, 30 bucks every month, and we can count on it, which is super, super helpful. And so we've built that, and then we have about 15% churches, about half dozen, probably 8 that are regular supporters, and then some that give, once a year or every so often. And then we have local businesses. There's a number of local businesses that want to invest in the next generation that support us as well. So it's kind of it's all privately funded. We haven't done any grants, and we won't pursue any like state, federal government grants. Feel like we want the community to make this happen.
Right.
We may pursue some private foundation, grants, to help with projects in the future. But it's been pretty incredible. Little old Nikiski has made this happen, and
Right.
now the organization owns 7,200 square foot of a mall. So
Well, and I would say that, again, the danger in taking, federal grants, state grants, everything else is that now you've invited, because there's always a hook in there somewhere. You've invited them to come in there and meddle in your program, tell you how to do things, tell you what you
Yep.
can and can't do. And if you have a vision and the vision's working, then you want to steer clear of that, because that's the poison pill. And there are good organizations out there that are funded by different. I'm not saying that they're not, but we have seen in some cases, those things go sideways. We've seen problems, malfeasance, fraud, or just programs that just don't work but are continuing on taking all the money because they've perpetuated or created some kind of jobs program. And that's an issue. So if you've got something and it's working, it's being supported by the community, I can stand behind that 100% because I believe that is something that's important. And obviously the community supports. I mean, Nikiski is not huge. For those of you who live up in the interior, Nikiski is a blip in the road. It's probably the size of downtown North Pole, and you blink and you miss it kind of thing. But it's a community that obviously believes in itself. So those are good things. I want to talk a little bit more about your expansion plans and the plan, and then you guys do have a fundraiser coming up, which I want to talk to you about as well. But we are coming up on the break, so we're going to take that break here, and we will return here in just a moment. Todd Brigham is our guest. If you want to go out and find out more, I would love you to go over there and check them out right now. It's The Compass AK, one word, thecompassak.org. You can go there. You can take a look at it. They've got floor plans of the changes that they want to make, things that they want to do. You can donate 5, 10, 15, 20 bucks, whatever, 1,000, a million, whatever you got laying around. And they'd love to work with you on that. We're going to continue with Todd Brigham here in just a moment. It is the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking community radio. It's what we're all about. We'll be back with more right after this.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes,
allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, we're in the break now with Todd Brigham. Again, I don't want to get too political here, Todd, but I mean, I think that there's some elephants in the room here. Somebody said earlier that I'm sorry, I'm looking backwards here through the comments because I thought it was kind of a very prescient comment. Essentially, they said that it sounds like, oh, here we go. David Boyle says, Todd sounds like a good type of surrogate parent for those who have no dad. And I mean, I mentioned it earlier, the explosion, the blowing apart of the nuclear family. We've got a lot of single, and I'm not trying to blame anybody, but, a lot of single parent households, a lot of stress, a lot of things going on. And that kind of whole, like you said, your crazy uncle who works on cars in the backyard is not around anymore because the family unit is completely different than it was 30 years
Yeah.
ago,
Yep.
50 years ago. And that's really part of the problem, isn't it? I mean, you
Big
hit
time.
you tripped on all the points of, competence and self-confidence and anxiety and everything else. But part of that is the fact that the family unit's kind of broken down. There's no cohesion. We're not really taking
Mhm.
care of ourselves. The technology's in our face. We're not paying attention to each other in a lot of ways. I
Yep.
mean, talk a little bit about that. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel throughout history the nuclear family's been the foundation of healthy society, and unfortunately, we find ourselves in kind of disarray in a lot of situations, and so these young people um, really lack some of the things we talked about based on not having stability in their home. A lot of one thing I mentioned earlier, grandparents. I know probably a half dozen of our youth that are being raised by grandparents, and thank God they have grandparents that love them and care for them. But that's a hard road to go on for them, and so we kind of become surrogate parent. Like I've worked on a kid a little while back. We were changing the tube in his bike tire, and he looks at me. He's like, Thanks for doing this for me. I don't have a dad that does this with me, and I've been called like my second dad. You're like my second dad, or you're like my new dad." And so there's a desire, a hunger in our young people for healthy relationships with adults. And so while that's sad, it's also a neat opportunity to pour into their lives, speak into their lives, encourage them, and that's probably what keeps me going is those young men in particular, but young ladies too, um, that just really gravitate towards you because of the need, and you're filling a hole, filling a gap. So that's part of what we're doing here. Volunteers and the other staff, my wife, like we're stepping in and we're doing life together, and we're helping fill the needs of these young people. And one thing we're trying to do is also encourage the families, because some of the families they've had struggles, and we're trying to encourage them. I've talked with parents and grandparents. We're also looking at ways that we can really invest and help them get on their feet. There's a number of our youth that live in motorhomes, and through the winter, that is hard with a whole family, five, six, in a motorhome, in Five Below. It's not enjoyable. And so one thing with a nonprofit, I can bring up work teams from churches and other organizations, and we really want to in the future start now that we got our facility most of the way, we got more we want to do, but really start investing in some of these families to help them out.
It's I mean, I feel like an old man, right? I feel like that grumpy, "Way back in my day," kind of
Yeah.
thing. But, it even though my dad was gone a lot when I was a kid, but he still took time to, teach me certain things
Mhm.
and do certain things, and it just I try and put that off on my kids as well and do the same thing, but it's shocking sometimes to see how tough it is these days for a lot of these kids to even have some of those, like I said, basic life skills, or how to change a tire on a bike or do something like that. And it's heartening to see that kind of stuff happen. Uh-oh, we lost Todd for a second. Okay, he's back. It's heartening to see that kind of stuff happen. And yeah, it's tough to see the kids in foster care, in dealing with this kind of stuff. And it's good to see somebody like you, Todd, working on that. You're back, Todd, so we're good to go. All right, Todd Brigham is our guest. The Michael Duke Show. Well, we lost him. There he is. Okay, we're going to be back here in just a second. We're rejoining the radio. Let's get to it. Here we go. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. No, I was a little early.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Huh. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
Nope. Not your daddy, nor do I play one on TV. But I am talking to kind of the second dad, the surrogate dad for a lot of kids out there. Todd Brigham is our guest from the Compass in Nikiski, the compassak.org. You just missed a great conversation in the commercial break, and I know your radio listeners get mad at me when I say that, but we're trying to talk about how the fact that there's a lot of youth today that need that father or mother figure in single parent households, and in some ways the Compass is helping to provide that as well. Todd, let's talk about expansion in the future. You guys are in the middle of trying to create, you got new things you want to do. So let's talk about the future and what you're looking at right now. What's this expansion? You guys have got on your website, facility purchase and expansion. You've got a $300,000 goal. You've raised over half that. Let's talk about what your expansion plans are and what you hope to accomplish.
Yeah. So sorry, I dropped out for a little bit there. My videos on my screen, my videos kind of cut, but hopefully everybody can see. Our facility here, we had an opportunity to purchase it, and so the location's fantastic, and it was meeting our needs. But we also didn't want to invest tens of thousands of dollars into a new roof and all that. I think that was $100,000 project until the organization owned it, and so we were able to purchase it, and then we wanted to expand to provide more opportunities. So we have a multi-purpose room, 30 by 40 multi-purpose room, and then we have offices we're putting in for the organization, and then also we want to get a kitchen. And when you have 30, 40, 50 middle schoolers and high schoolers, when it's nice out, we want to go outside. So we're putting in a concrete slab to be able to have a basketball court and do some other things outside, have a little fire pit and some activities where we can get outside when it's nice in the spring and fall.
So you're going to put in a pickleball court, right? I mean, that's
right.
The new hotness is the pickleball thing. But I mean, it's nice to get outside and do things. The commercial kitchen thing is a great idea. Two of my kids love to cook. They both went to Galena for the IDEA program and did culinary and other things. And I mean, that's just really an exciting time. And the opportunity to teach those kind of life skills is important. I mean, you can get a job at any restaurant if you've got the skills and understand a basic kitchen. You can do a lot of those things. So again, you're equipping a lot of those folks for that.
Yep.
So what is so you've purchased the facility now, you've done some of the maintenance and the updates, but you want to continue to expand. And so you have a goal of 300,000. You're working away at that. Again, people can just donate, but you guys are also hosting a fundraiser to help kickstart you. So let's talk a little bit about the fundraiser that you guys are doing.
Yeah. So what we have is we have a Gowns and Guns fundraiser, kind of fun. We got a gun raffle. So that's a lot of guns we're raffling off. It's a fun way for us we're going to have a dinner night, do a gun raffle, have some other entertainment activities, and really just get people together to raise money for our youth. And so that is the end of February 28th, and people can get tickets on our website, um, thecompassak.org, and also you can buy raffle tickets. So we're selling a max of 500 raffle tickets, and each ticket gets entered into all 20 gun drawings. So I'm a, like I mentioned, I'm a avid outdoorsman, and I love shooting um, as well. And so this is kind of a fun opportunity to raise money for our youth, for our young people, and possibly win a rifle, or win a pistol. So again, that's February 28th. Everybody's invited to check it out on our website, or stop in the Compass in Nikiski, get a cup of coffee, buy a couple raffle tickets. Even if you can't make the event, you don't have to be present to win. So you can buy raffle tickets and still have an opportunity to win one of those sweet guns.
And where are you holding the big event? Where's it going
Yes.
on?
So it's gonna be on K Beach at Peninsula Grace. Brethren, their auditorium there holds a lot more than we can fit out here. And it's a really, really nice facility. So yep, it's on February 28th, 6:30 till 8:30. I think doors open at 6, and it's at Peninsula Grace Church. We've done it over there a couple of years, and it's been a lot of fun.
All right, so that's the Compass annual benefit again, February 28th. The Gowns and Guns raffle. Do I have to wear a gown? I mean, I'm asking for a friend. Is that something that
I would prefer not.
nobody
Uh,
needs to see that. Nobody
no
needs
one
to
needs
see
to
that.
see that.
That's right.
But it's kind of a fun way. Like, ladies can dress up. I've had guys in Carhartts
I'm
or
just
whatever we want. It's Alaska, okay? So
yeah. I was just gonna say I'll put on my clean Carhartts for that event
yes,
so that it'll all be fine. It'll all work out. Um,
perfect.
talk to us about again, I talked about expansion, but where do you see this going in the future? What if you
Yeah,
had if I dropped $1 million in the sky on you, and and you had a mysterious donor that just kind of ponied up,
right.
what would be the ultimate vision for the Compass? Would it be expansion? Would it be expansion to other communities? Would it be solidifying
Yeah,
what's going on down there? What are you looking at here?
yeah. So really, it's a couple fold. First of all, we're trying to do really well with what we got, and really this model, kind of what we have going on, do it with excellence. Um, and then really get it to where it's a model that can be replicated, whether that's us or other people want to start something like this. We've had we've had communities and people from all over the state, down in the lower 48, both on the road system in Alaska, off the road system. That's like, man, we need this in our community. So the needs there all over, um, but we're not at a point where we're ready to do that. Maybe at some point, where with our organization as we grow, um, if we feel led, we might try to multiply. That's one possibility we don't want to rule out, because the need is there. We're also looking at different ways we can from here in Nikiski meet needs of youth of Alaska. Um, outside our community either even. And one way we can do that is trips. We can work projects, camps, different things we could do in the future. We're also housing is always a challenge. So if I had $500,000 right now, I would build a shop slash housing for like work teams that come, or interns or staff. It's a big challenge to logistically handle some of those things.
Right.
So lots of options, ideas. My first focus is get this facility. I've been in construction mode for 6 years on this facility, so I gotta get this. I gotta get this one done. I know it's Nikiski, and we all can relate to being in a perpetual construction
Right.
mode, but
It's
we
the
want to get this
forever
done.
project, right? It's the forever project. It's the wife who looks at her husband and rolls her eyes because there's still bare sheetrock on the wall. He hasn't finished taking
Exactly.
5 years ago, right? It is what it is. Well, I mean, this is a worthy cause, and it's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring Todd Brigham on. I'll tell you just a quick story. When I was working and running the radio stations in Anchorage, we did a program up there called Pump Up the Kids, which was a Christmas program that we partnered with OCS at the state to help bring gifts to teens who were in non-familial care, meaning they weren't placed with a relative, they were placed with strangers. And I got to tell you, that was one of the most heartwarming and heartbreaking things at the same time, to see all these kids who are who suffered from some of this. So anything that we can do to help prevent that, anything that we can do to, give kids some focus, to give them some presence, even kids who are having a hard time, if they've got a bad family life, if they need a place to escape to, or to go and learn things, or to meet other kids, to gain some confidence, to gain some competence. This is a worthy cause, folks. So I know it's tight. I know inflation, and gas, and fuel, and food, but if you can afford to break off $5 or $20, if you can forego your latte for a couple days and go over to the Compass and drop a few bucks in their kitty, that would go a long way to helping. And or something similar. If there are other, if you live in a different community and there's an organization like the Compass, give back into your community as well. That would be, I would love to see, with your success, Todd, I would love to see you succeed enough to be able to expand to other communities, because I think this is what's needed. Privately funded, and faith-based is great, if it is or it isn't. I think either one's great, but giving that mentorship and that compassion and that competence and confidence to kids is so important. And you want to know why we can't find people to work, and why kids. My daughter, when she was running a restaurant, or she was managing a bakery at one point, or a little coffee bakery. And she said, a new gal showed up, 18, 19 years old. My daughter had to show her how to use a broom. Okay. She'd never used a broom in her whole life. She was 18 years old. And I'm just like, how does that happen? This is what we need. All right, Todd, 1 minute here. Final thoughts before I let you go.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on today. It's been really good. And I think wherever we're at, whatever community, in whatever way we can, we need to pour into our next generation. That there's so much potential. I'm not one that's like, oh, the next year. Yeah, no, there's a lot of potential that's just not being realized, and
Yeah.
they need to be cared for. They need to be encouraged, equipped in practical ways, and we will see the next generation thrive.
The
So thank you.
CompassAK.com. The CompassAK.com. That's where you go to find out more. Folks, we're out of time for hour one. Hour two dead ahead. Be kind, love one another, live well. Back with more right after this. All right, Todd, I want to give you one final bite at the apple, if there's anything else. Anything else that I hit on? I know sometimes these are, like I said, they're sensitive topics, or they become politicized or whatever, but we've got to talk about it. I joked earlier about the Whitney Houston thing, but children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. And if you don't teach them, if you let the schools babysit them and teach them everything, and you count on the schools to do it, that's not going to work. If you leave them to technology, that's not going to work. You've got to mentor and work with your kids. And it's heartbreaking. You could see it in some of today's youth when they haven't had that, and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, and we have a big challenge with the 18 to 25-year-olds getting traction in life, and a lot of that comes from when they're in middle school and high school, not getting equipped to really thrive. And so the need is there, and it's hard. It was super easy going to work engineering compared to doing this, but the need is so great, and it's also rewarding when you see youth. I have youth in the military, one in Korea, one in Germany, that contact me all the time. I have people down. They when they gain traction and they get direction in their life, it's super exciting to see. So yeah, we're excited to see what happens and keep pouring into our young people.
Yeah, no, well, it's important stuff, and whatever we can do to help you guys, we'd love to see it, and especially that fact that you're succeeding and you've got the community behind you, that makes it easy. Michelle says, "Go drink a latte at the Compass. It's an awesome
Yes.
place." You know,
Hey,
Cindy
Michelle.
Cindy says, "Great opportunity for small businesses to donate to organizations like the Compass versus the chambers, who don't really represent your best intentions," she thinks. But yeah, it's a great opportunity. And Amy Carpenter says, "Thank you, Todd and Emily. You're both truly an inspiration." And I saw Ben say something earlier about the fact that it's proven it's because the community believes in you. And they, that's it's proof positive. Success reflects the community's priorities, says Ben. So it's important stuff, and we love it. And we hope that you continue to succeed, and we'll be talking with you more in the future. If you get anything else new, you let us know. And
Awesome.
if we can come together, we'll do our best to help you guys out. All right.
All right. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on, Todd. And I'll be sending you some emails later today as
Sounds
well
good.
about the gowns fundraiser there. All right. Thank
Awesome.
you, Todd Brigham. Thank you so much for coming on board.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You bet. TheCompassAK.org is where you go. TheCompassAK.org to if you want to donate. Again, just throw $5 a month in the kitty, or like I said, a week's worth of lattes. What do you spend on lattes a week? Or go buy your lattes at the Compass and give them some more money. I don't know. See how good I am at spending your money? It's almost like I should be a legislature. All right. We've got Al Poindexter coming up here in just a moment, and we'll be getting ready to go on here in just a second. Jerry said the Compass has hosted other organizations like Samaritan's Feet that provide shoes, socks, backpacks, and other needed items for students for back to school needs. Just one more feather in their cap. One more feather in their cap as they go through. Okay, let me get caught up here to see what you guys are talking about. Anthony says programs like these are good, but I feel like it speaks to a broader societal issue. Little pop-up groups like this, rallying people in a community and around a common cause, should be the model for how we do things in all regards, and kick the government out of the equation. I mean, I agree. I think a lot of times the government is doing, is not doing a great job at this. And part of it is because of mission creep, right? And then the regulations and the stipulations and all the hooks and everything else that are getting it done. And then we become dependent on the government to do those things, when that should not be the case, right? That should not be what we're focusing on at that point. It should be the community should be supporting those things, because that's how you end up with programs that the community doesn't really care about or support or even know about, is when you get the government involved and some do-gooders in there, trying to do their thing or maybe protect their job or do whatever. And so this should be the model for all of those things. I 100% agree with that as well. And we are here. Kim says, reminds me a little bit of the FFA, Future Farmers of America, and VICA, the Vocational Industrial Clubs of America program we had back in my school days in the 60s and 70s. Yeah. Teaching them things that they need to know. I mean, how do these kids come out of these schools not even being able to, basically live on their own? I mean, again, I'm still blown away. I've told that story several times about my daughter having to teach that girl or woman. I mean, she's 18 years old, having to teach that woman how to use a broom. Like, she said, I walked over to her and she's just kind of And I'm like, do you not know how to? She's like, "No, I've never used a broom before. I've never, why? I don't understand. I just don't understand. All right. We're waiting for Al Poindexter to dial in here, but we're coming up on it. We've got more dead ahead. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Please like and share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all the secret YouTube-y things. There's no secret things. It's just like and subscribe and ring the bell. That's all it is. Let's get back to it. Here we go. Hour 2 is right now.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet here at michaeldukeshow.com and live around the state of Alaska on this your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Thank you for being part of today and joining us. It is the Michael Duke Show, and we're getting ready to go on to our next topic, which is going to be food sustainability. In here in the state of Alaska. We're going to be talking with Al Poindexter, who currently runs the Anchor Point Greenhouse. He also is used to. I mean, he's got a long history in agriculture. He in fact actually taught voc ed and agricultural for 10 years, and he's took over his dad's greenhouse down in Anchor Point in 1995, and now they make the only potting soil in the state. They got tons of fresh produce and everything. I mean, he knows about creating and making food here in the state of Alaska, which is a good thing. So we're going to talk with him here in just a minute about that food sustainability. But we just finished up with Todd Brigham over there at the Compass, and I guess I just want to speak for a second to that before we get too far along. Al's not here yet, so let's let me just say that, and I'll reiterate what I was talking about in hour 1. When I was in Anchorage, running the 2 stations there in Anchorage, one of the big programs we did for the year, and it was a lot of work, but it was worth it, was a program called Pump Up the Kids, which partnered the radio stations with the OCS, the folks there at the local OCS office. And we connected foster kids with listeners, and they helped provide Christmas gifts for teens, because the little kids seem to always get remembered at Christmas, but it was always the teens from 13 to 18 who were in foster care that seemed to, slip through the cracks and get forgotten at Christmas. And I will say that it was one of the most gratifying things that I've ever participated in as an adult in radio. It was humbling and it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking to see so many kids. And I did the program for 5 years while I was there in town. So I saw some of these kids were in the program for all 5 years. And to see them mature in their requests, because the kids would ask for, you'd give them a thing and fill out this list and tell us what you want. To watch these kids as they get close to 18 say, you know, I need some stuff for school. I'm going to college, and I need a little notebook computer to be able to do this and do that, and I need some, bicycle to be able to run. And it was just, it's so encouraging. And kids, the kids are so important. I mean, the next generation is so important. And in so many ways, we have a societal problem. Anthony said something earlier, which I will now repeat, because I think it was true, and it holds to what I was believing as well, and what I believe. He said programs like these, he was talking about the Compass, are good, but I feel like it speaks to a broader societal issue. Little pop-up groups like this, rallying people in a community around a common cause, should be the model for how we do things in all regards, and kick the government out of the equation. Because the problem is that government is part of the problem. Again, it's not evil. It's just the nature of government is to grow and to expand and do things like that. I mean, that's how you get programs in communities that the community doesn't even really know about. They didn't ask for it. They may not, they may or may not care about it. They may, in many cases, probably wouldn't have funded it locally, because if they could have done like the Compass did. They went out there and they got the private funding. They got supporters. They did that. This is what we should be doing. We should be taking care of ourselves in our communities. We should be giving back. But between the polarization and the divisiveness, the destruction of the nuclear family, technology, I mean, there's so many different components to this. We are now, and of course, decades of drip by drip government dependency that's been created. We have we've got a problem. We've got a problem. And as I watched these kids go through this program that I ran in Anchorage, to see these things and to see some of the, it's heartbreaking to see how sometimes these things fall apart, and these kids need that, they need something. They need, they need that mentorship. They need help. And I'm sure some of the foster families are providing. I'm sure some in regular families, kids who aren't in foster care, are doing their best to provide it. But sometimes they need help. And an organization like the Compass seems to be doing a good job. I mean, it obviously has the support of the community, right? They're succeeding in the community. Ben Carpenter said, success reflects the community's priorities. The success of this organization reflects where the community's priorities are. And I think that is 100% true. And I think any community, if they put a program like this together, and they model it after something like the Compass is doing, or something else, they can succeed. I mean, it's like My House in Wasilla. I mentioned My House earlier. My House is a tremendous organization. Little bit of a different mission for them, because they're focusing on homeless youth, because there's a big homeless youth problem in the Mat-Su. It's an issue. And it also heartbreaking when you've got kids in their teens who are out on the street, through, in many cases, not their, not their fault. It's not their choice. It's the circumstance, it's family life, it's what's going on. And it's a hard thing. It really, sorry, it breaks my heart. And I really wish we could do more to talk about that and expose that and to find solutions to that. And I'm just so glad we were able to bring on the Compass and talk about it. So again, if you got a few extra shekels and you want to slide them on over there to help them out, then you can go to thecompassak.org, thecompassak.org, and we will do that. All right. Well, let's. I don't know. Al was supposed to be joining us already. I guess let me ring Al up. He was supposed to join us via video, but let's see if we can get him. Let's see if we can get him on the regular old telephone here and see what we can do here as we go through.
Good morning. This is Al.
Good morning, Al. It's Michael Dukes calling.
Hey, I'm on Google's Meet, but nobody lets me in.
Oh,
so,
there's
there's no.
There's the link. It's the link. It's not the Google link Meet. It's the other one that says StreamYard on it. There, Al, the one below that says Stream.
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see that anywhere. So
okay. Well, we're on the telephone and we're live on the air.
Okay.
We're on the telephone now. So let's just do it the old-fashioned way, like we used to do it back in the day, Al. We'll do a telephone.
Hey, I'm all for it.
Yep. So Al, you got a bit of a background here. You're born and raised out in Seward, and you said you sent me a little bio here. You said your father dreamed of owning and operating a cattle ranch, and so you kind of followed his dreams. You moved around a lot when you were younger. He wanted to start a ranch somewhere, so you kind of went all over the states and the lower 48 and here into Alaska. And you've got lots and lots of agricultural experience. I made everything from a 17,000 chicken egg farm in Seward to Anchor Point, where your dad moved in the mid 60s. And you had cows and everything else, but that's all kind of changed here. So you've got quite a background here. Tell us a little bit about your history and who you are, where you came from, beyond what I just laid out.
Well, that's you did it pretty much in a basket right there. All through high school, I was always wondering what I was going to end up doing, and I kind of thought maybe I would like to be a cattle rancher too, but you get to thinking about it, and you pretty much have to have $1 million to start a cattle ranch. I've had the experience of doing it without any money or infrastructure, and that didn't work out very well. And so I thought, well, how am I going to get $1 million to start a cattle ranch? And life takes you in different directions, and eventually. After, I started college right after high school, and I was disillusioned because it was kind of a rehash of high school. The University of Alaska was supposed to have agriculture there, but there was no agriculture. So I dropped out. I worked for 3 years, and then in between my work experiences, I had an opportunity to coach wrestling. And I got a lot of accolades out of that. Kids really produced. They did a great job. We were winning every match all over the peninsula and statewide. And so I thought, okay, so I'm pretty good at this. I'm going to go back to school and become a PE teacher. So that's what I did, and ended up in Homer High School. So my first 10 years, we're talking about food security, so I don't know how much of this you need to know, but
yeah.
I taught phys ed for about 10 years, and I was trying to incorporate phys ed with a little bit of ag ed, and eventually I ended up teaching ag ed and vocational education classes for my last 10 years, and then I got into a tiff with my administrator, and I didn't realize at the time, but that was actually the beginning of DEI, and I had no idea, but I didn't like the direction we were going, so I quit and decided I was going to do what I was teaching. And half the time I was wondering if I was giving the kids a bunch of BS or not, so I thought I'd try it out, and sure enough, the BS actually worked. So here I am at Anchor Point Greenhouse.
Right. Well, that's good fertilizer. We know that that's good fertilizer, Al. So that's how that worked. You said you were listening to the program. Al reached out to me because food security has been something that I've been interested in for a long time. Here in the state of Alaska, back in the days of the colony in Palmer and up in the interior, I mean, that was the breadbasket of the state. And we fed a lot of the state out of that area. And of course, with the advent of new technologies, faster shipping, container shipping and worldwide markets, it slowly became more and more affordable, or became cheaper to ship stuff in than it was to grow it here. But Al says he's got a plan, and he has ideas on this. And again, he taught agricultural and voc ed for 10 years and has been a farmer and a greenhouse guy for decades. He's got a little bit of a plan on this, and I was intrigued. I was intrigued by what he had to say, because we've had plenty of studies, we've had plenty of groups come together, think tanks, big talking heads that said this is what we need and that's what we need. And the state's tried to stand up its own dairy, and it's tried to bolster barley farms, and it's tried to do all kinds of stuff, and everything's failed. And Al says that he has some answers for that. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to continue with Al Poindexter, who is again a former ag teacher and owner of the Anchor Point Greenhouse. And we're going to talk with him here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show continues. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We return with Al Poindexter on food sustainability in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, we're in the commercial break right now. Al is still with us here in the commercial break. Al, I like to kind of change topics during the commercial break so we don't repeat ourselves for the podcast and everything else. Tell us, I want you to tell us a little bit more about some of the things you do out there. You guys, I know in your bio you said you're the only place in the state that makes your own potting soil. Is this the fishy peat potting soil that we're talking about?
Fishy peat, yeah. We use local native peat, and I compost fish waste and I compost seaweed together and blend it with our native peat, and it makes a pretty good potting soil. It's been on the market for quite a while.
That's great. That's great. And again, being one of the only places in the state to get it. I know my wife, when I told her about that, you sent me the email, and I told my wife, and she's like, well, I know where we're going here in a little bit, because she's got a bit of a green thumb. She likes to do some of that stuff. And you also said that you're one of the few places that, or is it the only place that does road? I don't want to butcher this. Rhodiola. What is rhodiola?
Rhodiola is a high altitude Arctic herb. It doesn't grow in many places. You get it above 70 degrees and it starts dying. So that makes Alaska a perfect place to grow it. It's used worldwide. It's been used for over a couple thousand years by local natives. It originated in the Altai Mountains. And in some of the mountain areas of the Scandinavian countries as well. But it's been wild harvested so long that it's been put on the endangered species list, so it can't be exported across borders. So we decided that we would start trying to see if we could cultivate it, and we're doing okay with it. We need a lot more farmers. But yeah, and then we're taking that, and Alaska is an export country. All we do is take raw material and ship it outside. And we decided we wanted to take it to the finished product. So now we're producing rhodiola tincture, and we just established a lab in Anchorage that is working on trying to get dried extract so that we can encapsulate it. So that's one of the things that we're doing.
Well, that's great. Is it a cure-all? Is it what is the tincture used for? What is the application for it?
It's an adaptogen. It supports weak areas of the body. It's kind of a general snake oil kind of thing, but it helps people with anxiety. People that have mental focus problems, it helps with mental focus. Those airplane crashes, those guys probably didn't take the rhodiola, probably. So it helps with mental focus. Attention deficit people use it quite a bit. And also athletes use it for endurance. back in the 70s, there was a thing that came out that the Russian military had a new military secret. And for a long time, we couldn't figure out what that was, but it ended up being rhodiola. Military in Russia is required to take rhodiola. So that's some of the things that it's used for.
Nice. Well, it's good. I just said, Bill in the chat room just said, do not buy tomatoes from Al. Worst tomatoes in Alaska. And then he winks like, don't go buy all my tomatoes. Thanks, Bill. Now I know where to go get my tomatoes and stuff like that. And what else do you do? I mean, we've got about 30 seconds here. You guys, it's a full greenhouse there with all different kinds of plants, perennials, vegetables. You do everything?
I have 12 greenhouses, and I have about 2 acres of produce. We have 750 tomato plants that produce about 30,000 pounds of tomatoes each year. About the same amount in cucumbers, and then the rest of our fields produce a variety of cold weather crops. We sell most of it all right here at the farm,
all right,
which is pretty impressive.
All right, hold on, Al. Hold on. We're going to jump back into it. Here we go, the Michael Duke Show. No.
The Michael Duke Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. Sorry. That is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
And we're back, continuing now with Al Poindexter. He's the owner of Anchor Point Greenhouse. Got a lot of history behind him in agriculture. Not only doing it, but also teaching it to the youth. And voc ed and agriculture kind of going hand in hand in those things. And Al has got a plan. Now, Al, like I said earlier, reached out to me after hearing me talk about food sustainability, which is something I've been concerned about for a long time, but I don't have the answers. I'm not an ag guy. I can see why we shifted away from local agriculture. I can see the economics of it, why it happened, but I can also see the danger in not being able to support ourselves or sustain ourselves in those regards, and having food that's closest to us, close to the land. But Al had some interesting ideas. So Al, I mean, let's talk about this for a second. I mean, the governor just had another task force. I had an interview with somebody from the governor's office about the task force here a few months ago, and it was singularly unsatisfying and unhelpful. It didn't really have any answers. It seems like they get these task forces together and there really doesn't come out any real answers in it. You're the guy boots on the ground, hip deep in manure, trying to fertilize everything. So what do you think we should do here in the state of Alaska? If I made Al Poindexter king of food sustainability in the state of Alaska, what would be the plan to try and make us sustainable in the long run? Because I know it's not an overnight thing. So what would it take?
Well, first of all, just for a real quick background, we were producing 50% of our food in the 50s and early 60s. Then we struck oil. During the 50s and 60s, homesteading was still happening, and so folks could get land with sweat equity, and it didn't cost them a lot of money. So, and then again, we were producing about 50% of our food. So then we struck oil. Oil field needed workers, and the people that had those skills that they needed were farmers. And so farmers left the farms, headed for the oil fields, and of course made a lot more money than they do on the farms, and then the farms died. And then homesteading died, and people are no longer able to access land at a reasonable cost in order to be able to farm. So the barley, the McKinsey project and the Delta project tried to do this big Midwestern huge farm kind of idea, and it failed as well. And part of the deal is we were trying to import farmers from outside. Well, first of all, farming in Alaska is totally different than outside. So basically, you got to forget everything you knew and start over again. So if we want farms and we want to grow our food, we first of all have to have farmers. And how do you do that? You grow your own. Every school probably should consolidate their vocational programs into an ag ed career technical program combined, and it should be a 4-year program. Students that do well. Let me go back. I've watched for years and years vocational programs. Let's take welding for instance. Students will take a welding class, be in it for 2 or 3 years, and I've noticed about 2% of those students end up being welders. When they leave that welding program, they know nothing about plumbing, carpentry, any of the other kinds of trades. All they know is welding, and only 2% pursue that field. So if you have a comprehensive ag program, they learn carpentry, welding, all of those kinds of things that's required on a farm. Plus they learn animal science, plant science, that sort of thing. And then if they join the FFA program, FFA has a degree program. So as you progress through the 4 years, you end up earning degrees based on standards set up by that program. The final degree is American farmer. And once you get to be an American farmer, you really know your stuff. You understand how to grow stuff in Alaska. You know all the inputs, outputs, everything you need to know to be a farmer, including all the other trade skills. So about 2% of those kids may enter the farming field, provided they've got land, because you got to have land to deal with agriculture in the first place. So my plan is that if our state, this is going to require public will, it's going to require political will in order to pull all this together. It's like everything else. This idea probably will die. I've talked to the governor about it, and it goes over the top of his head. Talk to other folks about it, and it goes over the top of their head. So I might be wasting your time and my time, but the idea is to have a comprehensive program. Now, the other 98% of the kids that go through the program, they will also have those career technical skills that they can go on and do other things.
Right. That's why it's a combined program, right? It's a combined program for ag and other things, so that they have some of those life skills that we were talking about in the first hour of the program today. Those life skills coming together, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and people tell you, well, we can't afford it. Well, we're providing career technical education already. Let's just combine it all, and you can probably do most of it with the amount of money you're already spending.
Right.
The next thing is I ran an FFA program in Homer. We were never afforded any funding at all. The kids earned the money that they needed for their program, and it worked out pretty well. And we had national winners in things like floriculture, ag mechanics, and other things. So little tiny Homer High had national winners competing with all the big 100,000 acre farm kids. So I thought we did pretty well. Anyway, going back to this program, so if you become an American farmer, you really do understand farming in Alaska, or you should. And at that point, when you receive that degree, this state should give those degree winners, they should give them an ag land scholarship. So give them some land, and then we'll start developing farms.
Right. So once they graduate and prove themselves that they understand that they did the things, that they've got the ag degree, or they've gone through all 4 years of the program, then they get an allotment, a plot of land. The state's got lots of land. They just need to basically give it out, or pennies on the dollar or whatever, so that they can get to work at that point.
Correct. Alaska has 365 million acres. Alaska was afforded 100 million acres, and the rest of it belongs to the stinking federal government. Well, some of it's been given to the native group as well. So we have 100 million acres. 1 million of those acres has class 2 and 3 soils. That's what you need for agriculture. So we have 1 million acres available, or currently available, that could support agriculture. Instead of building houses on that, we really ought to be developing farms, and that should go to people who have actually studied agriculture in the state and understand all of its nuances anyway. So once we get that, if we get to that point, then the other 98% of students, some of them will be interested, and part of that program is entrepreneurship. It teaches students how to build a business, et cetera, et cetera. So some of those students may be interested in food processing and start up processing plants, and everything starts small and then it builds. Some of those students will like mechanics and will get into the mechanic field and work on agriculture machinery as well as other machines. Some will get into computer science, that sort of thing, and be able to support the agriculture industry as well. So, and some will get into marketing. All of those kinds of things are taught in that program, as long as it's a comprehensive 4-year program. So, once so that requires. So our state school board, I think, has totally failed us. Our university has failed us. So if you want to start the program, you got to have teachers. Where do you get the teachers? That should be taught at the university. However, even though the university is a land grant university, it teaches nothing about agriculture. Isn't that weird? And so if we had a ag teacher program at the university, teach those people all they need to know about agriculture in Alaska, they become teachers in high schools, and then the kids go through the program, and then the state awards the American farmers land. This will take probably 10 or 15 years once you start the program.
Right.
It's not an overnight thing, but that's how you would develop an ag industry in this state. Now, if you know anything about history, you study all these different countries and places around the world. Every place without an agricultural base is doomed to being a boom and bust society. They have booms, they have busts every time. And I haven't found one that's contrary to that. If you look at the development of the United States, it was agriculture. It was the agriculture industry that began to build our country. And it continues to support all the other things that we do. If it wasn't for agriculture, the United States would be nothing. So how do you develop Alaska? The same way. People have to be able to access land, and if they have to spend more than $1,000 an acre, maybe even less, they're never going to recoup that cost doing agriculture. So they've got to be able to get land that they can actually utilize.
You mentioned that the university.
Go ahead.
You mentioned the university. The University of Alaska is a land grant college. It's supposed to be about mining and agriculture. That was really the kind of the basics of it. And yet we've strayed so far away from that, and we've moved so far away. I mean, farmers in this state are few and far between now. I mean, professional farmers. It's not happening here. Part of it was the pipeline boom, obviously, and the money to be made in other areas and things like that. Part of it was the global markets and the transportation moving and things becoming cheaper and everything. But as you said, that boom and bust cycle and the fact that there's a fragility in the supply chain really creates an issue where if something ever goes wrong and we start, we've seen it. If the port locks up, if there's a strike, if there's an emergency, if there's a disaster, the shelves in Alaska start to get bare pretty darn quick. And if we're not, if we don't have some kind of fallback on something like this, it could be catastrophic for us here in the state of Alaska. We've got to start thinking about this.
Yeah, I went through the '64 earthquake like a lot of folks did, and there was about a 3-week period of time when we had no imports, nothing, and the food got pretty scarce really fast, and that was at a time when our state population was way smaller than it is now. So yeah, it could be pretty catastrophic. So we need farmers that produce food. We need processors to process food, warehouses to store food, all of those things in order to develop any kind of food security. Not only that, we wouldn't see the huge booms and busts in this state if we had an agricultural base. So that's sort of my plan. I've got, there's a lot of details involved with, trying to implement something like this.
Right.
That's kind of
the nutshell.
$50,000 altitude kind of thing.
Well, and we can talk about some of those details and more. We got to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll continue with Al Poindexter. And I want to talk about what the state has been doing and talk about some of these focus groups or working groups or committees or whatever's going on. And why isn't somebody like Al on those? Why isn't he participating in those? Why don't we have more Als out there that are bringing that kind of knowledge to it? Because again, I'll be honest, I was not impressed by the last report that I just read here last fall from the state's food security group, and because it doesn't really have the answers we need for what's going on. But I think Al does. So we're going to continue this conversation. We'll be continuing here in just a second with Al Poindexter, The Michael Dukes Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
All right, we're continuing now in the commercial break with Al Poindexter from Anchor Point Greenhouse. Again, decades worth of experience in the ag industry. Why do you think you mentioned I mentioned it, you mentioned it. We've had several projects around the state. Al, the Delta Barley Farm, of course, is one of the most prominent. The Matanuska made dairy in the Mat-Su as well. You have some experience with cows and things like that as well. So why do you think that those types of projects that were state funded, had all the backing, had all the confidence, everybody was sure it was going to go on, why did those projects fail? Is there a common thread? Is there something in there that is missing? What was wrong with those?
Well, they tried to do it too big, too fast. That's primarily it. And you got to understand, government is not very good at business anyway. And so you get the government involved and they have all kinds of strings attached instead of these people being able just to farm and get their stuff to market. They had to jump through all kinds of hoops as well. And that pretty much kills every little beginning endeavor anyway. So that, I wasn't directly involved with the McKinsey project or the Delta project, but I certainly watched it. Now I do know people in Delta that started up there in that project. One is Bryce Wrigley, who is now growing wheat and barley and turning it into flour. See, he's able to continue with his farming because he's value adding what he grows, turning it into flour, and now it's being distributed primarily in Anchorage and Fairbanks, but it's slowly getting out to other places. But that's what supports his farm. And then, the dairy is a travesty, the whole dairy thing. The state ended up owning the creamery that processes milk and all of that kind of stuff. Well, that was there was a lot of shenanigans going there, and bankrupt, and then dairies had no place to sell their milk, and they couldn't pasteurize or homogenize their own milk because they were too small, et cetera, et cetera. And so basically we had 39 dairies here in the state at one point. We had 3 large chicken farms at one point in the state. We had 3 times as many cattle in this state. I even was a sheep herder for a year. I actually herded 1,000 head of sheep. It's called a band in the Caribou Hills for a summer. All of those failed because of market. You got to have a market. You got to have infrastructure support, those kinds of things, and it's tough to grow stuff in Alaska, but it can be done. But I mean, you got to be pretty tough at it. And so a lot of people got into the Delta thing and the McKinsey thing because the state had lots of money, and folks could see, I could get all this money. But most of them that got involved really didn't have the knowledge to actually grow stuff in the state. Now, there's a few that's really becoming, probably successful. A fellow in Nenana in that new ag sale, from what I understand, he grew 50 acres of sweet corn in Nenana, believe it or not, and then sold it to all the local stores in the area. So things can be grown here, things can be done. It just takes a whole different set of knowledge and skills than what you have in the South 48.
Right, exactly.
Now, it's like Anchor Point Greenhouse. I have a really cool crew of people here that work here. My main crew is about 7, and it grows to about 20 in mid-season. I don't have to even be here now. They have it down, the science, the skill, all of that, and they just go about their business growing food, and they're doing really well. So it just takes somebody to have the experience and knowledge to teach people how to do stuff.
Yeah,
and then they've got to have the land to do it on.
All right. Well, we're going to continue here with Al Poindexter from Anchor Point Greenhouse. We're talking about food sustainability in the state of Alaska. I mean, it's an exciting thing. I think if we could implement something like Al's talking about, we could turn this around. But we have to have, as he mentioned, not only the political will, which these days, also, but also the practical, and the people have to have the will. So let's get to it. Here we go. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio, the Michael Duke Show. Let's get to it right now. All right, we're continuing now. Al Poindexter is our guest. He's a former agricultural instructor, owner of Anchor Point Greenhouse down here in Anchor Point on the peninsula. And, we got a big history of agriculture across the state, Al. I mean, Fairbanks, like you said, has got its own growing season because of the crazy summers up there with 24 hours of daylight. You've got the breadbasket was the Matsu, of course. That's where the colony started and everything. That's where a lot of it came down. But even down here on the peninsula. So this could be done all over the state. Now, you did mention this is not a short-term thing. This is not a quick fix by any means. You're talking the plan that you just laid out in the last segment, is going to take 10 to 15 years to, not to be too punny, but to come to fruition, right? I mean, to become ripe and ready to go. And there's some details, but it has to have the political will and the support of people. Agriculture was the base of this country. It was the base of this country. It was the base of this state. Expansion was the westward expansion was fueled by, cattle ranching and farming and those kind of things. I mean, the agricultural base was a big part of what we are. Although today it seems to have fallen out of style. It's not nearly as sexy as it used to be. And now the governmental intervention has created some problems as well, whether through regulation or even through subsidy. It's kind of breaking the system, so to speak. But you've got some details. Address that, and then let's talk about some of the details.
Well, yeah. So you got the high altitude sort of view of how this could happen, and obviously there's lots of people with all kinds of ideas, and maybe some of those other ideas could be meshed with this one to make the thing work. This isn't a catch-all, solve-all problems, but it's an idea. And I've tried to get on these think tanks, and somehow I just never seem to be involved. But anyway, that's beside the point. Gosh, I don't know what else to say. Maybe you can ask me some questions. And maybe we can
I guess that actually leads me back to the question that we were talking about before we went to break was, there's been all these study groups, right? There's been committees, there's been working groups, there's been, all these different things that are put together. But I don't see a lot of actual down in the earth farmers on these committees. I see experts, I see nutritionists, I see, economists, I see politicians. Why are these groups not coming up with some of these ideas? Why are they not coming to the same conclusion that you have? Is it because they don't have the experience? Do we need to have a group made up of nothing but farmers with maybe a moderator to make to make some of these suggestions? What do you think?
Well, maybe I've got a unique set of experiences. I was an educator for 20 years, and I see how I'm a brick and mortar school guy. I understand how that works. I understand the system. I've watched programs being introduced into the school, and then they go for a while, then they die, and they get changed, and they move around. So I know it's possible to develop a program like this. Actually, the FFA is the perfect model that's been going since 1939. It's the most successful youth group in the youth organization in the world. The fact is, it's the largest youth organization in the country, and it's still going on strong in some places. Anyway, so I guess I've got that background that meshes education with agriculture, and it just seems so reasonable to me. If you want to develop a food security system, you have to grow your own farmers. You have to provide incentives. So the land grant would be an incentive for schools to offer the program, because that would be a way for students to actually access land. So that would be an incentive for schools. It's also an incentive for students and parents to take those kind of programs and so forth. But to start with, you got to light a fire under the university, and I think everybody there ought to be fired, because I think they failed our whole system. I don't know. I just I get frustrated sometimes.
Yeah, well,
there you go.
I guess so. Again, if I made Al Poindexter the king of sustainability, And what would the universities be teaching specifically, or what would their focus be changing to? I mean, obviously, we mentioned earlier they're a land grant college, but they really don't have, they really don't have much agriculture going around. I know Fairbanks has got the experimental farm up at UAF up there, but that's not really for. It doesn't seem that it's for growing per se. Melissa in the chat room says UAF has a beautiful piece of farmland, but the only activity there is plowing and harrowing the dirt. They're not really community friendly. I mean, what?
And they don't.
Go ahead.
And they will not let undergrads be any involved at all. At least while I was there, I tried to even work in the ag department, but I wasn't allowed unless you had a PhD. You just weren't allowed to even look in the barns or anything else. So that was frustrating to me, because I went originally hoping that I could get an ag degree at the University of Alaska, but, and that was the only place I could really afford to go to. And so, I ended up learning how to be a teacher, and I got a lot of expertise in physical education. The University of Alaska could do the same thing for teachers in agriculture, and yet there's nothing there. So I don't know, it's a chicken and egg kind of thing. So do you develop programs first, or do you teach teachers? How do you incentivize people to take an ag ed program at the university if there's no programs?
Well,
so it's kind of a
catch-22.
That's the trick that I haven't figured out. How do you do that?
Well, and I like your idea.
But we have government people that should be able to figure that part out. They do it all the time.
Yeah, no, I like the idea. I mean, what you're saying, especially the land grant aspect of it. I mean, if you took the ag course, maybe you go through high school, and by completing the high school ag course, you get access to the land grant. And if you go for a program at the university, 2 or 4 years, maybe when you come out of that, maybe you now have access to something from from some kind of statewide I know there's an ag revolving loan fund. Maybe they say you can get a loan to set up your farm. And you get the preferential whatever by doing that, and by graduating, you can set up your farm. You now have the land. Now you have the startup costs covered for the first, whatever few years, and you can get started. Maybe that's the incentive that somebody needs. They could have a path all laid out for them through high school into college, and they could get that startup and give them that leg up that they need to get the farming started. I mean, I think that might be a genius idea.
Well, if somebody really had the will to sit down and develop a program, was really serious about it, you would have to try to figure out how the market is going to work, where the fertilizer is going to come from. All of those kinds of things need some detail work as well. But the overall framework of that program, other than teaching people how to garden, and so everybody could have a backyard garden, and that supplies about 2 months worth of food,
right?
Probably.
Well, Al,
and not much more. So anyway.
Well, Al, hold the line for just a second here. We're got to go here, but I want to talk to you real quick. It's been a fascinating discussion, and I really appreciate you coming on board and joining us to talk about it. We'll bring you back on to talk more. We should explore this more. This is good stuff. We're out of time. Be kind, love one another, live well. The Michael Duke Show. We'll see you tomorrow with Rob Pincus. All right, let's. I want to give Al the final bite at the apple here. His final thoughts on this. Although there was a question from Rick in the Matsu. I know Rick is a farmer up in the Matsu, and he asked the question, Al, how do you heat your greenhouses down there? Are you using natural gas? Are you using wood? What are you using for heating your greenhouses down here on the peninsula?
I'm using natural gas, which we probably will run out of, and that will put me out of business.
That's a rough situation, isn't it? It's tough. All right. Well, I want to give you the final bite at the apple. Your final thoughts for folks who are listening out on the internet or listening to the podcast later. Your final thoughts on this idea of creating an ag industry, reinvigorating and recreating the ag industry here in the state of Alaska.
Well, I think the ball is in the lap of our politicians.
Oh God. Oh God.
I don't see any. I really dislike government involvement, but our schools comes from our government. Our government runs the schools, and so it seems to me that's where it starts. And then so our government people, whoever is tasked with this kind of a project, needs to sit down, write a program, develop it, and then the school board needs to somehow get that program into schools. So we've had ag programs even in Antioch and in Bethel and in Dillingham, but after our oil business got going, they all died. Schools just dropped it. So that was really unfortunate.
Well, we need to find some way to solve this, and with the older guys like you out there with all the experience, we need to take advantage of it while we can and see what we can come up with. So let's let's keep talking about this, Al. I think it's important, and maybe we can get somebody's attention. You said you've talked to the governor, and it just goes over his head. We need to talk more about this because this is important for Alaska, and Again, I was so dissatisfied with my interview last fall with the guy from the governor's office who was talking about the food sustainability task force, and it was non-answers, and it was irritating, and I was really looking for some positive solutions, and you gave me more in our 20-minute phone conversation the other day than I've ever received from any of these task force recommendations that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to put together. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, really. This my idea really wouldn't cost hardly anything, really. If you have your teachers installed, and you already have money going into career technical education, that could all be rolled into one. So the cost would be minimal. It just takes someone to develop that program and make sure it's installed in the schools.
Right.
Period.
Well, maybe we should give you some homework, Al. Maybe you should get us a draft outline of the program, and we can talk again in a month, and we could talk about how far you've gotten on it. Maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe we got to grab the bull by the horns, because waiting for the politicians, like you said, the ball's in their court. They're not going to whack that ball. They're too busy doing everything else, putting a chicken in everybody's pot, doing all that stuff. They could give two shakes about, ag or anything else. They're too busy protecting the government pie at this point. So I think it'll be on us, Al.
Well, you're catching me right at the beginning of my season when I'm starting to get busy. But
wait! You just told me you got a whole crew that you could leave and it would be fine. Don't snow me, Al.
That is actually true. They know their stuff. I tell you what. So anyway, I don't know. You might have to guide me what you think you need, but we can draw up an outline. Sure.
It would sure be nice to have something to hand to somebody, especially to a legislator, and say, here's a 2-page pitch deck on what we should do. That would sure be cool to do. But we should keep talking about this, Al. I'll come up and see you, and we'll have a cup of Joe or whatever and talk about it. Okay.
Anytime.
All right. Thank you, Al. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming on board and sharing with us. I appreciate your effort and your wisdom and knowledge on this. And we look forward to talking to you again.
By the way, I'll be talking to you here in a little bit putting an ad on your station, on
Oh,
your radio.
all right. Well, now you're talking my language. All right, Al. Well, I'll talk to you here soon then, and we'll get stuff squared away. Appreciate you calling in and talking with us today. Thank you. All right. We are out of time for today, folks. I got to go. We are, man, it's been a day. It's been a day already. I've been up since 3:30 this morning dealing with issues. So we're ready to go. I'm going to take a nap here in a little bit, I think. All right, my friends. Thank you for coming on board and being part of it today. The Michael Duke Show. Tomorrow is Firearms Friday. We're going to be talking with Rob Pincus and talking about SHOT Show, getting the full rundown of what went on at SHOT Show, including that Kel-Tec abomination that we've all heard so much about. That's all coming up tomorrow. Thank you for being with us today. We will see you tomorrow. Be kind, love one another, and live well.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.